Greetings again everyone, and 2023 is shaping up to be a beautiful year already for Sony shooters who like 50mm lenses. Here is the new Sony FE 50mm f1.4 G Master lens. It's essentially intended to be a smaller, lighter and more affordable version of their excellent f1.2 G Master lens, which can only be a good thing. Although its price of around $1,500 still somewhat elevates this to the professional realm. The lens is for their E-mount mirrorless cameras, full frame or APS-C, and I'd like to thank Sony UK for loaning me an early release copy of this lens for evaluation, although as usual this is a totally independent review. There must be few people left in the world who don't know what a bright aperture 50mm lens can do on a full frame camera that's a focal length which is neither wide angle nor telephoto, a classic field of view for getting a nice little emphasis on your subject and an out of focus background, while still getting a little bit of the bigger picture in around you. And of course, that very bright maximum aperture of f1.4 means the camera is getting plenty of light for shooting in darker situations also. If you're shooting on an APS-C camera, then a smaller cropped sensor will leave you with a tighter field of view of about 75mm, making it a great choice for portrait photography. Let's take a look at this new lens's build quality first. It's bigger than an old-fashioned doubled gauze 50mm lens, but actually a little smaller and lighter than usual for a high-quality modern 50mm at 520 grams. It feels quite lovely to handle actually. Its body is mostly made of plastic, but it certainly feels quite solid and well assembled. The lens is advertised as being quite well weather sealed, and it does indeed have a slight weather sealing gasket on the rear mount. There are a lot of control points on the lens also, which is always handy. It saves you having to fiddle around changing things in the camera's options menu. First comes the aperture ring, which can be set to click nice and confidently every third of a stop, or it can also be set to turn smoothly, which yields some lovely smooth aperture changes when you're making videos. It can also be locked in or out of automatic mode, which is a feature I often find useful. We also get a manual focus switch and a couple of customizable focus hold buttons on the side. Then comes a rubberized manual focus ring, which turns satisfyingly smoothly. As you can see here, the lens exhibits some moderate focus breathing, zooming in a fair bit as you focus more closely. That can be a little annoying for video makers, although Sony's latest cameras can compensate for this when shooting video. Now, let's see about the autofocus motor. It works quickly, accurately and silently here. Really impressive actually, faster than usual for a bright 50mm lens. The lens comes with a nice little soft carry case and a very good quality hood with a rubber trim on the outside edge. It has a 67mm filter thread size and it does not have image stabilization. Overall, we're looking at wonderful build quality here, which really makes a difference. The lens is very enjoyable to handle and use out in the real world, and I'm especially impressed with its fast, silent autofocus system and useful features for video makers. Okay, let's take a look at image quality now and see if it tallies up with the lens's rather expensive price. Let's start by testing it on a full frame camera, my 42MP Sony a7R III. In-camera corrections are turned on for this test. In the middle of the image, right away at f1.4, we see absolute razor sharpness, excellent contrast, neutral colours and no colour fringing. Let's take a look in the image corners. They look excellent too, although the image is a touch softer than it was back in the middle. Stop down to f2 for more brightness in those corners, and stop down to f2.8 for those corners to become as razor sharp as the middle of the image. The lens stays this sharp down to f11, although f16 looks a bit softer due to the effects of diffraction. So that is a truly excellent performance on full frame. It's easily one of the sharpest 50mm f1.4 lenses I've ever tested. Let's see how the lens performs on APS-C now by testing it on my little Sony a5100 with its 24MP cropped sensor. At f1.4, image quality in the middle is still excellent. Plenty of sharpness and contrast can be seen here right away. The corner image quality is good, but we're seeing just a touch of haziness here in the contrast, a little ghosting on contrasting edges. At f2 though, the sharpness is very good again, and at f2.8 it's perfect from corner to corner. Again, the lens stays this sharp down to about f11. So that's a very good performance on APS-C also, although you need to stop down a little if you want perfect image quality in the corners there. Okay, let's turn off in-camera corrections now and see about vignetting and distortion. Without corrections, the lens clearly projects pincushion distortion, although it's mostly confined to the corners. At f1.4, vignetting is very strong though. Here's f2, f2.8 and f4. It's only at f5.6 that those corners properly brighten up, so you'll definitely want to use your corrections with this lens. This lens's minimum focus distance is about 41 centimeters, which is just a little closer than average for a 50mm optic. Unfortunately, close-up image quality is fairly soft here at f1.4. Thankfully, you only need to stop down to f2 to quickly see a dramatic increase in sharpness, and at f2.8, the close-up image quality is as sharp as at normal distances. Let's see how the lens works against bright lights now. It's a bit of an average performance for a modern lens here. We are definitely seeing some clear flaring floating around here, but I've certainly seen worse than this before. While we're working in the dark, let's see about chroma levels. It's good news here, only the tiniest bit of smearing on bright lights is visible at f1.4. It's about the same at f2, but totally gone at f2.8. For those of you who like sunstars though, there's some bad news. Even stop down to f16, there's very little to see here. Next, let's look at the quality of this lens's bokeh. It's very, very nice, gorgeous actually, smooth with no visible outlining in virtually all situations. The only thing to note here is a bit of a cat's eye shape to specular highlights in the image corners. And finally, related to bokeh, let's take a look at longitudinal chromatic aberration. At f1.4, there's definitely some false colour visible here on bokeh highlights. Stop down to f2 though, and it's mostly gone, and at f2.8, completely gone. Overall, well, you get the picture by now, no pun intended. The lens is pretty phenomenal in virtually every way. It's not too big or heavy, is laden with features for stills and video work, it offers excellent sharpness, beautiful bokeh, and low chroma levels. I wish the close-up image quality were a little sharper at f1.4. Oh, and you'll need to make sure that distortion and vignetting correction are turned on in your camera, but while it's not a perfect lens, it is truly excellent and a good option for those who had their eye on the f1.2 version but were put off by its price. Highly recommended. Hey, here's an idea. Soon I'll put together a comparison of this new Sony lens and the also new Sigma 50mm f1.4 DG-DN Art. How does that sound? Coincidentally, I was testing them both at the same time. Anyway, thanks for watching, and a special thanks to all my wonderful supporters over on Patreon, who make such a big difference to me keeping these videos coming. Supporters over there can get all kinds of exclusive bonus content, as well as a warm, fuzzy feeling inside for helping to keep things trucking on here in my lens testing situation room. Take care everyone, and God bless.